Greetings, everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of My Week in Horror. This one being a special episode because it's all smutty horror movies, and because of that, this video will probably be age restricted. So, my apologies for that. That also means I won't be able to make any money from it. So, perhaps if you could see kindly as to maybe drop me a super thanks, that would be awesome. Now, the four movies I've picked for you in this episode that you, me, and Mr. Fallout are going to be looking at are The Evil Dead Trap from Japan, 1988. Holy Virgin versus the Undead from 1991. Erotic Nightmare from Hong Kong, also from 1999. And another one from Hong Kong, The Eternal Evils of Asia from 1995. As you can see, Hong Kong loves their smutty horror, and so do I. So let's get started with The Evil Dead Trap. Yes, thank you, Dan, for that. You're going to laugh at me, but for a very long time, I have avoided watching this movie because I always thought that it was some kind of Japanese piss take or remake of Sam Raimi's Evil Dead movie. And clearly, now that I've seen the movie, I know that I was wrong. So let's check out the synopsis. Nami hosts a late-night TV show that showcases viewer-submitted videos. Think of it like an early YouTube but broadcast on free television with a host and more commercials. A viewer submits what appears to be a snuff film, and this prompts Nami and all her female crew to investigate its origins. They locate the building featured in the tape, an unused American military base, and start their investigation where she runs into a mysterious man who's looking for his brother. But something else is on the base with them, and slowly killing Nami's film crew one by one in gory fashion. So, released in 1988, and I reckon by 1988 standards, this is a pretty full-on horror movie. Maybe not so much by 2023, but definitely it contains a interesting blend of sleaze and horror together. To make this film. Now, like I said in the intro, this has been a movie that I avoided for ages because I thought it was an Evil Dead clone, but I'm glad that I watched it. This movie's all kinds of fucked up, and they're the best kind of movies. They're the best kind of smutty movies. Now, I'm testing my memory here because it's been a little while since I have watched The Evil Dead Trap, and I haven't watched any of the sequels, which I plan to watch in the future. So if you have, please drop me a comment below. Tell me if they're worth it or if I should completely avoid it. I remember this film just being... No, firstly, I believe all of the actresses in it are AV stars, either ex-AV stars or they were current AV stars. And so knowing that, you know straight away, boobs. There's going to be tits. And I think what took me by surprise was that, there's 4 women and 1 man who go to this military base. And as soon as the guy is alone with one of the women who he's dating, they just fuck straight away. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I've ever been that kind of raring to go that I'm just in the middle of some abandoned base and feel the urgent need to fuck. But they do it. So, good on them. The good thing is it's not all about just being silly or sex for the sake of sex, which there is some, and you will like it. There's a lot of dread in the film, and it's quite gory. Some of the deaths are quite gory. I'll see if I can pop up some footage. Hey, we're already age restricted, we might as well. So yeah, I'll pop up some of the footage. And what I like about the movie is that you've got, it's all set in a day. It's all set in the daytime, even though the building's quite dark. You've got that... Yeah, there's that constant serious feeling of dread throughout the whole film. And I think if you're a horror lover, perhaps, and you're a bit of a thrill seeker, I reckon this movie is definitely one that you should definitely watch. Now, there's a lot of sleazy Japanese horror movies, and we will cover them. Stuff like Entrails of a Beautiful Woman, which I've already covered on the channel. And even Strip Mahjong, I would consider a horror movie. Probably. So Japan knows a fair bit about sleaze. They don't kind of hold back in this one. But it's worth noting that this movie was written by Takashi Ishii, who you're going to say, I don't know who the fuck that is. But I reckon if you've seen his stuff like Flower and Snake, Black Angel, Sweet Whip, you kind of know where he's coming from. This is a guy who writes a lot of sexually perverse movies. That's what we get with the Evil Dead trap. But it's also perverse and gory. I don't think my review is doing this movie any justice. But if you're a lover of practical gore effects, and, 1988, so we are practical gore effect category. We're not, Japan has thankfully resisted the urge for CGI for so long. You're only kind of seeing the CGI shit now in their films, but, back in the 80s and 90s, there's none of that crap. So practical gore effect fans are going to love it. For some reason, the sickos out there who like to see women getting killed are going to love it. The rest of us who like interesting movies are going to love it. If I say it's a charming film, does that make me weird? Using my patent pending ghost rating, which stands for great horror or stupid trash, I will award this film 4 ghosts because it's really good. It really, really, really is good. And you shouldn't look away from it because it's a horror film and you're supposed to watch it. And if you're watching it like this, which I might have, I don't think I did, then it's a good film. This is a good film. Watch The Evil Dead Trap. Actually, all 4 movies in this episode are really good. This one's the best of the lot. But definitely watch this one. The Evil Dead Trap. Now to the next one. Now, there's one thing that we haven't done so far in my week in horror, or this week in horror. I've no idea what I've even naming these shows. Just look at whatever the thumbnail says. Is that we haven't done any Hong Kong films yet. And I'm breaking that run by now having 3 Hong Kong movies in a row. Because I believe the category 3 gave us some of the sleaziest and horrible Chinese Hong Kong movies out there. So first up, we're going to look up a movie with a fan favorite, Donnie Yen. This is Holy Virgin versus the Undead. A man, a teacher apparently, is caught up in the rebirth of the moon monster when his students are brutally attacked and murdered under a mysterious red moon. Investigating the strange moon monster myth leads him, his brother, his ex-wife, and her new lover, who's a police officer, to Cambodia, where he teams up with a tribal princess to defeat it. How's that for an insane synopsis? And trust me, considering the next 2 movies we're looking at, that's about the most logical synopsis of a movie you're going to get. Hong Kong has a knack that I seriously wish I was this age than I am now, back in the 90s when this movie came out, because I would have appreciated the shit out of Hong Kong movies. Too bad we didn't have Blu-ray back then, because then we would have all of these awesome movies printed on glorious high definition, rather than having to rely on the shitty VHS-ish type quality of the footage that I'm popping up on the screen now. Where do you even start with a movie called Holy Virgin versus the Undead? So firstly, who's the Holy Virgin? Well, that's the princess in Cambodia. I believe she's a virgin. I don't believe that she ever gets involved in any hanky-panky throughout the movie. And speaking of hanky-panky, which is why you want to know about the movie, it starts off pretty, hey, look, my voice is getting high-pitched. You get boobs pretty quick in the movie, and you get some boobs throughout. Like Donnie Yen's wife, whoever she is, the wife character, is not afraid to let the girls out throughout the movie too. So this is one of those movies that makes no sense. It has a storyline and plot that makes no sense. It's essentially a movie that's set in its own world where there is no consequences or actions that could possibly happen that would affect what happens in the movie. The police don't really do anything and they can't do anything. And when you're firing off shotguns in the middle of a Cambodian jungle, police tend to not do anything either. The police don't tend to do much in Hong Kong either when the movie's set in Hong Kong, even though there's a few scenes of it. So it just feels like one of those movies where you're like, only in the movies could something like this happen. And Kenny Lowe is in it. It's probably not a young Kenny Lowe, even though we're talking 30 odd years ago. He still looks rather old. And it took me a while to realize it was Kenny Lowe. Now, who's Kenny Lowe? Kenny Lowe is this dude that I'm going to pop up on the screen. He's in a lot of movies. He's in Raging Fire, in a very brief scene in Raging Fire. But then I think half of the Hong Kong film industry minus Louis Koo's in Raging Fire. So yeah. And I reckon Kenny Lowe does a pretty awesome job in the film. But the one thing that this movie will always remind you of, and me of, is that there used to be a time when Hong Kong cinema was really cool. And regardless of your take on sleaze and sex in movies, Hong Kong was not afraid to try shit out. And this is an example of them trying shit out. Now, Herman Yao is another great example of trying shit out. And we'll look at some of his movies in the future, his Cat 3 movies. But this is a great example of you taking an actor who would have been completely unknown in Donnie Yen at the time. He gets to do a little bit of kung fu in the movie, but not a hell of a lot. And you just throw him in a scenario full of naked women and stupid horror. And with that in mind, great horror or stupid trash, this movie gets 3 ghosts, only because it is a little silly, but it's fun silly. And if you can't enjoy a movie, you shouldn't watch it. And if you're not going to watch a movie for fun, which is why I don't watch Decision to Leave and drive my car and shit like that, because they don't look like fun to me, you shouldn't watch films. This is fun, and it's worth the 80 odd minutes of your time that it goes through. Enjoy. It's Holy Virgin versus the Undead. Now, following up from Holy Virgin vs. The Undead is another Hong Kong movie, this time from 1999, and starring one of my favourite actors in Anthony Wong. This is Erotic Nightmare. I believe it also has another title, which I can't remember quite off the top of my head, and was recently re-released on Blu-ray by Vinegar Syndrome. So if you get a chance, check it out. This is what it's about. A wealthy businessman has some issues at home. He can't have sex with his wife, but he dreams of different sexy girls every night. While surveying some land to buy and develop, he meets a strange witch doctor who promises him wild dreams and gives him a test of his powers by providing him a sample dream of a girl called Bobo. Bobo is fucking hot, and in the dream, he fucks Bobo in the men's room of her high school, or would have, but the sample doesn't allow it. So he finds the witch doctor and gives him a lot of money for a lot more dreams. But the dreams come with consequences. When he wakes up from his dreams, something is usually dead in his house. When that something ends up being his wife, he kills himself out of guilt. His brother then arrives from Malaysia to find out what the hell's going on, and then devises a plan to defeat the witch doctor and get revenge for the death of his family. So I might have said that the plot of the last movie was a bit insane. This one might top it. Anthony Wong's a fucking legend, and I love the guy. I cannot imagine how many sets of tits this guy has felt under the guise of being an actor in a movie. Now, interestingly, Anthony Wong has a very sorted, interesting background. I've used the word interesting twice. He's a mix. He's a half Asian, half white, I believe. Ooh. Can you say that on YouTube? And his backstory goes that he actually suffered a lot of bullying in school because he was of mixed race. And so he turned to acting, and then wanted to take up a lot of the bad guy roles in acting as kind of catharsis for the bullying. Hence why a lot of his earlier titles, like Cha Su Bao and the Ebola Syndrome, he's a completely fucked up character. And he plays completely fucked up really well. He's also plays awesome really well. As you would maybe, if you've seen Legally Declared Dead, which came out about 3 years ago, I mean, that's Anthony Wong at peak solid Anthony Wong acting. He's also banned from mainland China, which is hilarious because he made some bullshit comment about the government or something like that. So all of his movies are banned from mainland China, which they probably would have been anyway. But he's also not allowed to make any movies in mainland China, which for Hong Kong actors is kind of bread and butter for them. If they're not making movies in China, they're pretty fucked. So he doesn't star in a lot these days, and the stuff that he does star in tends to stay in Hong Kong, hence Legally Declared Dead. This one, Erotic Nightmare, this is pure Category 3 horror smut. There is nothing else, no other way that you can describe it. It has gratuitous, and I mean gratuitous sex. Whereas some movies might have a sex scene for 10, 20 seconds, this movie gives you 5. And we see angles, and we see movements, and we see body parts. You don't see any of the detail. But, you know, the actress who plays Bobo's hot. I'm not going to lie. I'm still a red-blooded male. I can appreciate beauty, regardless of how old the movie is. And she's good-looking. But the movie, the plot is so dumb. There's always that, you know, that play on witch doctor themes and black magic in Hong Kong cinema. There's a lot of it. And, you know, Shaw Brothers movies have got a lot of the black magic stuff in their movies, and they're fun to watch, and they're smutty as hell too. And, you know, when this movie was made, we're talking about a time where Shaw Brothers was, 15 years, maybe not that long, but maybe 10 years defunct. So, you know, there was no more Shaw Brothers left. Other companies had to come in and take up the mantle of making these kind of Category 3 smutty horror films. And, you know, this one definitely came to the party. But it's a silly plot that makes no sense. And when I say it's a silly plot that makes no sense, it's because Anthony Wong's character has a brother who lives in Malaysia. And the whole point of the movie is the mother is about to go to Malaysia to spend some time with the other brother so that Wong and his wife can start fucking and have a kid. That's the whole point. When the brother finds out that his whole family's dead, he comes back to Hong Kong, then finds out that Anthony Wong's character has signed over their company to the witch doctor. So he devises a plan to, you know, make sure that the witch doctor suffers. How coincidental that the brother is also a practicing witch doctor and a very powerful black magician. So what you end up is an ending where two black magic practitioners are fighting against each other, using poor Bobo as kind of the middle person, and the guy's wife. There's a lot of misogyny in this film. Now, as I said in the last movie, I'm not a social justice warrior or anything like that, but some things are in bad taste. And this is in bad taste when it comes to the kind of violence against women. Not cool with it. Maybe you're different, and shouldn't judge you, but I probably will judge you on violence against women, but it's just not cool. Those scenes are uncomfortable, and I get it. Those are made to make the character more vile, so that we want him dead. But by that stage, he's already vile and we already want him dead. I think it was just a bit overkill. And worth noting, I believe Wong Jing is a producer of this film. So, you know, Wong Jing's all sites are fucked up too. You know, there's something seriously wrong with that guy. Even though he's made some great films with some great actors, and him and Donnie Yen do a lot of shit together, there's something seriously fucked up with Wong Jing. So if you ever see his name on a smutty film, just know you're in for a bit of a ride. So putting aside the stupid ending and the stupid way the whole movie plays out, let's give it a rating. So, ghost rating, great horror or stupid trash. It's a 3 ghost movie because of Bobo, because of Anthony Wong. But otherwise, it's a little uncomfortable to watch. And yeah, I know what I said in the last video, in the last segment. But there becomes a time where things become a little bit too uncomfortable to watch. And seeing women getting beaten up is not my idea of a great time. So just bear that in mind if you're going to stick with the whole movie all the way through the end and you don't just want to flick through to see the scenes of Bobo. That happens. 3 ghosts, though. Anthony Wong's still a fucking legend. On to the last movie of the video. Out of all of the movies in this episode, I reckon this one has the best title. The Eternal Evils of Asia. Where do you even start with a title like that? Well, where we are going to start with is the synopsis. So let's check that out. 4 men travel to Thailand and bump into a witch doctor and his hot sister. The sister falls for one of the guys and wants her brother, the witch, to create a love enchantment. He does, but the guy's 3 friends end up being cursed by the enchantment instead and rush to her house to have group sex with her. Once she's woken up from the enchantment, and I'm really not sure why she was also enchanted, she attacks the guys, who then accidentally kill her and then escape back to Hong Kong. Her brother tracks the men in Hong Kong and starts to use more enchantments on them, slowly killing them one by one until he gets to the guy who his sister fell in love with. That guy has a girlfriend who is a hairdresser. She has a client who also practices black magic, and using the girlfriend as bait because the brother falls in love with her and decides he wants to have sex with her as a punishment for his dead sister, the brother and his enchantments are destroyed in an amazing final scene involving an invisible man having sex with a woman. As if the plots of these movies couldn't get any more ridiculous. This one, 1988, I believe, is when this one was made. And this could be a Shaw Brothers movie. I'm not sure, but I don't think it is. I enjoyed this film. What does that say about me? Another film that uses a lot of black magic in its plot. And another film that uses a lot of sex and very beautiful women to kind of get the point across. This movie kind of doesn't hold back either. It's got a great name for marketing purposes, but it kind of gives off a bit of Faces of Death style vibes to me. For example, if I didn't know what the movie was about and I saw it sitting there on a video store shelf, remember video stores? I didn't even look at the cover properly and just saw Eternal Evils of Asia. I just think it was one of those compilation videos like Faces of Death. I wouldn't actually think it's a proper movie unless I read the back of the cover. And you know what? There's some pretty dodgy looking special effects in this movie, which makes me feel like I'm watching a Faces of Death movie, especially the guy that that his head turns into a dick. Like, that's hilarious. That's really funny, actually. But like the last movie, it's just so coincidental that we have another witch doctor there who can defeat the other witch doctor. And it just so happens that the other witch doctor is just that slightly a bit more powerful than the witch doctor who's cursed everyone. Must be a lot of witch doctors in Asia. What we really need to talk about is the final scene of the film. Because we end up having an invisible man who has sex with a woman. And a lot of this stuff happens in the air. And it is fucking hilarious. I mean, only in Hong Kong could you come up with something. Maybe Japan could do this too. But yeah, so Japan probably could do this too. So maybe only in Hong Kong and Japan could you come up with something as batshit insane as this. And Hong Kong's taken the mantle from Japan when it comes to this kind of batshit insane stuff. But there is a bit of a wait, though, if sex is what you're after. Because it doesn't kind of come until, the halfway point of the movie. And it's one of those funny movies where people keep their underwear on when they have sex. Maybe that's an Asian thing. Definitely a movie thing, I know that. I don't know what else to say about this film, because I've already covered it on the channel. And I just thought it would be good to compile this with the other three in this video. So if you were after 4 recommendations and hadn't seen the other video on my channel, I wanted to make sure that this video didn't get that movie didn't get lost in the pile. But if you're planning on kind of a smutty horror film movie marathon, add this to your pile. So using my patent pending ghost rating, which stands for great horror or stupid trash, I'm going to give it 3 ghosts. Because while it's insane and it makes no sense, I still enjoyed the film. And you will too. Because you're a pervert. And I'm a pervert. And that's what that's who this movie is made for. Thank you for watching this episode of This Week in Horror, the Smutty edition. Next week, I hope to go back to covering some more mainstreamy movies. And throw in a smut movie every now and then. Remember, this video got age restricted, so if you can give me a super thanks, I would appreciate it. Give you a shout out in the next video if possible. Otherwise, like, subscribe, do all that other horse shit that you're supposed to do when you're watching a YouTube video. And likewise, I will see you in the next video. And if you're interested in more smut, just click on the little channel icon and go check out what else is on this channel in regards to smutty videos. Enjoy.